Hey Gearfax friends, welcome again. We're going a little bit vintage again today. Not exactly vintage, I suppose. This keyboard's from about 2005 and it is the Novation Zio 25, the diminutive version of the Zio series. I think what Novation had in mind for this keyboard was a very quick, straightforward keyboard that brought out all the best elements of their bigger units, giving users really quick access to all the strongest, funnest sounds that Novation has to offer. So I spent the last hour or so putting together a few new sounds. The arpeggiator is just a one-touch thing. So I've got a little chaos pad sort of a thing right here. I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit more. On some of the patches you can set up the pad here so that it will retain whatever value you leave your finger on. In this case we've got resonance and cutoff in those directions there, X and Y, and I've programmed it so that it'll stay wherever I leave it. But it's also quite easy to program it here in the menu to center as soon as you take your finger off it. There are a range of XY options you can program to that. So that's a really fun feature there. Also, we've got the multi-directional joystick here. Generally, it's just pitch bend and modulation, but again, you can set that to control any parameters that you like. And I do have some more exciting examples of that to show you a little bit later on. Let's move on through these 10 or so patches that I've made. The big loud sounds come out really well through the Zio 25, and it's kind of funny because it's so small and unpretentious in its design, but some of those low big sounds are just absolutely massive. The distortion effect is very good. You can also put overdrive into your synth chain right about here, and there are 3 oscillators indicated by these 3 lights here, all running at once. So you can put very heavily layered distortion into your sound. Let's move on to the next one. So it's one of the more chaotic ones. Let's just turn the arpeggiator off. Next one. Something a little softer. So it can handle the gentle stuff quite nicely too. And this is not an example of that. So it does chaos pretty well. Incidentally, this doesn't have to be a monophonic synthesizer. You can play as many notes as you want when it's in the poly mode. This is an interesting example of the XY stick here, because what I've programmed it to do, apart from raise the distortion a little bit, is also add a little bit of delay. So in a soloing situation, you can start pretty basic and then mix in more of the intense effects as you play. So no actual percussion or rhythms on this keyboard, but there are some good clever uses of arpeggios, or certainly some good templates to start with, like that one, with which you can make a percussive style loop. Oh, that is a fun one. Okay, so that's enough to give you a good cross-section of sounds now. I'll just run you through some of the features. This particular sound gives you a good look at the arpeggiator here, which is just an off-on thing. But also the X-Gator as well, which is a map system where you can take particular parts of the arpeggio as it runs and cancel out various notes. And that's done on a map that looks a little bit like this. So as we can see here, the display has just turned into a bunch of blocks, and all that's showing us is which beat is on and which is off. And we can go through and program and remove those. See the cursor moving along? I use my octave left-right button to switch them off and on. And you can see as I guide the cursor through, I can raise the level of each of those individual beats. So you can see I've got that one at about half level, that one at about a quarter. I'll keep this one up high. And there you go. So you can have an arpeggio running along through 16 individual beats, rising and falling in volume, or being completely off on any particular note that you don't like. And this enables arpeggios to be a little bit more melodic than just the da-da-da-da-da-da repeated note that's controlled just by which particular keys you're pressing. So that's a good little additional feature. The synthesizer path is pretty self-explanatory. The upper level, you've got the upper parameters here, which will be controlled by each of these dials. If you go to the lower level, then the second row of parameters will be controlled. And each of these 2 rows of parameters applies to each of the 3 oscillators that are running at once. So if your third oscillator is the one selected, then all of these parameters here will affect that particular oscillator. When the edit button is pressed, then we're right down here on this lower blue line where we can start to make changes to filters and things like what the pitch, modulation and the pad will do when we control them with our left hand. And that is a really exciting part of the synthesizer because you can really make some insane things happening using those 2 controllers on the left. And that's just a very conservative example there. On the back we've got our power socket, 3 modes that you can get power into this machine. You can go, as you can see on the top here, you can go by battery, that is 6 AA batteries. You've got off mode, you can also run off USB power and obviously a DC in adapter as well. It's brilliant to have the battery power available. The portability of the synth obviously is one of the key features. It's so incredibly small, wouldn't even weigh 2 kilograms, and then you've got all these power options as well. So portability literally could not be better. Then we've got our USB control socket here. It also serves as an audio interface. You can use it as a great controller or actually record your audio as well onto your computer that way. MIDI out there, no MIDI in from another controller, but I think it's enough of a controller on its own to handle itself in terms of its internal sonic capabilities. So I think having a MIDI out is quite sufficient. Over here we've got the socket for our sustain pedal, headphones out, line out left and right to your PA system, inputs for audio. Like I said, it can be used as an audio interface, so you've got XLR and TRS options there. This will also provide phantom power as well if you need it. So there you have it, guys. Look at this amazing package. 25 keys, light as a feather, runs on all different kinds of power, lots of controllability on the side here, a very, very strong sound engine actually built into it. I don't think it's really showing its age either. There is so much synth capability, very, very malleable control path here. You can really acquire any sound that you want from this one. It really is classic Novation sound, but with the addition of battery power, which you don't see very often with Novation keyboards. Here are some links to some other things that might interest you, including some DAW recorded sound from the ZiO. Please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe to Gear Facts. Leave those comments, guys, because I do like to reply to everything. And I'll see you next time on Gear Facts. That's the ZiO 25 from Novation.